To perform ANOVA in JASP, first of all open up your data, and the form of ANOVA that we're going to work with in this module, the only form that we're going to work with, is the one-way ANOVA, which is the first one here on this list. So you've got 4 to choose from in the top options. Make sure you click on the top one, just ANOVA on its own. This takes you to a screen that by now you're probably hopefully familiar with, and what we need to do is transfer our dependent variable to the field that's helpfully labeled dependent variable, and then our independent variable will be included over here in the fixed factors list. For the moment we're just going to work with one independent variable, but again, as with other versions of previous tests, you can include additional factors here if you want to perform multiple iterations with the same dependent variable. So we're going to look at a simple example first of all. We're going to look at variation in net household income according to tenure. So I'm going to transfer the tenure variable over here to the dependent factors list, dependent variable, sorry. This is going to be our dependent variable, and this is total net household income. And the independent variable we're going to work with is tenure, the long form version of tenure, which is located just down the list here. We'll look at TENST2. So once we transfer it over, we get a fairly simple version of the results. Now the only 2 figures we need to concern ourselves with in this one for reporting are the value for F and our p-value here, which is considerably small. And remember, I made a note about JASP's use of scientific notation here, so this is very much below 0.05. So the relationship between tenure status and household disposable income is statistically significant. So remember, we're not checking for correlation here, because again, this isn't an ordinal independent variable. We're simply checking whether there is a significant difference in means given the size, the magnitude of the difference, and given the sample size. So to make this a little bit more useful for us and to help us interpret it, we can add some additional settings down here. Now there are several settings, but there's only 1 or 2 really that we need to check. What I'm going to do first of all is to activate some of the some of the post hoc tests. And what this is going to do is it's going to compare each of the groups individually against a fixed base group. So the one that I'm going to return is the donut. So this is most useful for us because, and again, sorry, just make sure you transfer the variable and the left hand side over to the right, and then it will activate the post hoc test table. So what this is showing us is for each of these ones, the difference between the base category over here on the left and the reference, the comparison category over here on the right. So this is the difference between those who own outright and those who own with a mortgage. And we see here that for those who own with a mortgage, their net incomes are quite a considerable difference, 27,590 euros below. And working down the list in this way, then we're able to compare each group against the other. So to compare council renters against those who own outright, we see that those who own outright, their income is 14,000 above that of council renters, and so on and so on. So down here we also have, if we activate the descriptives plots options and transfer this one over here to the horizontal axis, this will return for us a graph where we can look at the difference in mean income across these groups, and we can see here the difference between those. And the labeling isn't exactly helpful here. If you wanted to relabel these yourselves manually, you could of course just give it category 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and then add a notice to what these categories are. But we know, given the order of the categories, we can refer back to the original variable over here, or if we wanted to, we could simply produce a table of the variable down here. We could simply copy over our tenure variable, the TENST2 variable over here, and we can simply return a table which is going to show us the order of the different categories. So own outright, own mortgage, rent, council rent, rent free. We have a considerable amount of missing here because I haven't activated the filter to just exclude individuals, to only include households. So we can see here the comparison between category 1 and category 2. And if you want to see what that is again, you can scroll down, because remember, JASP keeps all of these tables in memory. So category 1 own outright, category 2 own with mortgage, category 3 rent, category 4 council rent. So we can see quite quickly from this that those who are renting from councils score on the lowest. So the graph is nice and neat in that sense. It lets us compare very quickly between groups.